Hello and welcome to the We Will Fix It Show, a Podaholiks podcast with Colin and Dan from WeWillFixIt.com. Dan is not with us this week, but Colin is, and we are going to delve into the wild and wacky world of water heaters and paint. Oh, and much, much more. Don't move. The show starts right now. This is We Will Fix It.
It's the We Will Fix It Show.
Yay!
And we're one man down.
Yeah, he's doing important things today, Dan.
And that's the thing with you guys are a team. Colin and Dan
Yes.
from WeWillFixIt.com. 800-FIX 800
349.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
And essential maintenance.
and essential maintenance,
which is the our annual maintenance arm. So get everything organised in one contract, one place, job done.
And so someone might say, "Why am I telling you this?" Because you guys come and do this. I mean, I come to you,
Yeah.
and you
Thank you
take
for that.
time out of your day, and it's the credibility you guys bring to this whole process.
Well, you know, we're like, I think it's 139,000. I probably should get an update on that because I think that was pre-Christmas, but we've done 139,000 jobs at that point since
nice.
2008. And, you know, we've got such a wonderful base of customers that keep calling us back. Luckily not for the same job. So,
Yeah.
but if they did, it's under warranty. Yeah.
There we go.
So, but it's lovely from that perspective that we've got, we've got customer number 23 that is still with us now,
Wow.
which is just wonderful, you know. We talk about her a lot because she almost framed, sat down. Actually, this is the same lady that from round the corner from you, you know. And she's absolutely wonderful because in the early days when we really didn't have quite so much of a clue, you know, when you're starting out a business, you're feeling it out. And she already has a business in Dubai.
Okay.
And she really just the 10 minutes time that in those days that we had just to have a quick chat with her was absolutely wonderful. But actually, she got in contact with me only a couple of days ago about her pump.
Right.
And she sent me a picture of her pump and the pressure kit. We were talking, I think, previously about the fountain that was coming out of it. In fact, we touched on that in the last show. That's when it came through.
Yeah, and since then, I've gone and looked at all my pumps and go, oh, there's that little hole.
Yes, exactly.
And I've never had that issue that you were talking about with her, but now I'm mindful of it because my kits are pretty old.
Yes. Normally it's 3 to 5 years, so I think you've been quite lucky with yours.
Oh,
but
man, I've got one that's way over that. It's maybe 7 years I'm going on now,
Wow.
and I'm looking at it. It seems to be, weathered well. And
why touch it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's amazing that the pump that she had was one of the first installs that we did. And it's that whole old adage of if you buy right the first time, then it will last.
And some of these pumps, when you buy them, you do have the choice. You can go the cheap route or you can go the more expensive route. And those more expensive pumps, at the moment, they kind of go...
Yeah, that's a painful moment. And then
But-
you've got a landlord often involved as well, which throws that into the mix. And the problem is the really cheap ones are copying the entire look of
they
the
look
really expensive
identical.
one.
They
Yeah,
look
exactly.
identical.
Yeah, honestly, I can just about tell the difference, but most people wouldn't. So you look at them and go, they're exactly the same.
Yeah.
Well, they're really not, but it's all the internals that you can't see that are different. One will fail in 6 months, and like I say, the one that I was talking about here with customer 23 has lasted now for over 10 years, and it's going strong, no issue.
And sometimes the outside casings get a little scary looking.
Yeah.
I mean, the weathering, I think we forget about this because, at least where I'm coming from, I'll go, it doesn't get winter here. Winter is what, 24? We've gone, okay, it went down to 13 a few times now.
Yes.
We're on the coast, we're in Dubai. If you're inland, well, you can get some chill, but it's still not winter like we're used to in Europe or North America.
I know, but then the other side of that is by now, March, we should be already like much higher than we are. We're 5 degrees on average below.
Really?
I know, it's massive. So for us, that's a real nightmare because all the guys are back off their vacations through the winter period where it's quieter naturally. Everybody goes on holiday for us, so we split it through that kind of the cold 6 months. So now is when normally we'd have everybody back and going great guns. So instead, right now it was a little bit quiet. So we've thrown some crazy ideas out there, and it's working. So we're busy again.
Which is a real challenge, isn't it? Because so much of your business, yes, it's based on stuff breaking down, but it's also based on people saying, hey, you know what? That thing that has not been working, this is the time to get onto it, or the essential maintenance things that aren't broken down. But if the weather is lower, it's not on people's minds.
Exactly.
I see people riding around still with windows wide open on vehicles. Homes have windows open. I mean, people have got everything turned off.
I know, but for most people, that's wonderful, isn't it?
Oh.
And the good news for those people listening right now, which, what date are we on now? We're on the 12th, actually. It's the 12th of March. So until the end of the month, if our wonderful AccuWeather is to be believed, we've got a little blip for 3 or 4 days where we go back up again. But apart from that, it's cool.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're saying 5 degrees because you guys chart this. You've been charting this for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Do it daily. It is. It's really low at the moment. And this morning, wow, I was walking the dog this morning, and I always go out in a t-shirt and shorts no matter what. And I was I had that kind of English mentality of, ooh, this is a little bit cool, isn't it? You know? So, and even Bailey took a look at me this morning. Bailey's my dog, by the way. Yeah. And was like, really? We're going out in this? I mean, I was like, if you, I gave him that look, if you were an English dog, this would be summer, you know?
Yeah.
But no.
Well, it's the same with our dog. It's standing outside, wind's blowing in its hair, and it's just... This is great weather.
Yeah, it is.
Because as it heats up, and it's coming. I mean, it's almost like we're being lulled a little bit, and it is coming. And I guess this is a great opportunity for so many people with things that they need to be thinking about, getting them sorted out, like that AC cleaning before it gets that AC tune-up, that AC inspection. That you know what's going to happen, because this is your bread and butter in some cases.
Absolutely.
As soon as it peaks a little bit, as soon as it hits over the 30 degrees, and then it starts going 35, the phone's going to be ringing off the hook.
But then the other side of that, which I always find quite amazing, is so once it's got hot, and people make that phone call, and they're like, oh, I need you to come right now for your AC. If there is somebody that is able, a supplier, an AC company, that is able to come immediately when it's hot, you need to ask why. And the reason should be that either on the positive side, maybe they just haven't marketed themselves very well, or alternatively, they're not very good at what they do.
Yeah.
So we're always, because luckily with the scale we have, it's very rare that it's more than a few hours before we can get to people. But, you need to think long and hard about, okay, well, now this time of year, make the most of it. Yeah. Really make the most of it. And hopefully you can get a real bargain at the moment.
Yeah. And that's the other side of it. There are bargains to be had, because people are realizing temperatures haven't creeped up yet, so hey, let's make it a little bit more worthwhile.
Exactly.
But make the calls. Get out there and start calling around, because it's time to do... I mean, I think it should be a big bell going off in everyone's head that we're getting a little bit of respite.
Yes.
Let's make sure we're ready for when it kicks in, because it will come.
And also, any maintenance company that's any good will offer either a service warranty if it's an AC service, or hardware should be 12-month warranty as well. Yeah. Always ask that. It's really important.
I think people forget that. They just assume that, okay, I bought this pump from the German manufacturer, it's going to have a manufacturer's warranty.
Yeah, well, they do, but then the problem with the warranties here basically comes down to the fact that they won't do a like-for-like direct replacement. Yeah. So imagine that water pump. Now imagine your house without that water pump for the next week. Yeah. And that's what they do. Now, you do have a DEWA bypass on most systems here in Dubai, which is a direct connection for emergencies from DEWA. The problem with that is, quite often, the pressure is so low that you'd only get a trickle. So your shower's out the window, for starters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to give you an idea, DEWA pressure, which is extremely variable depending on, first thing in the morning when people have just had their showers.
Must be a nightmare for DEWA to keep those pressures up.
Really difficult for them, but it can go down to less than half a bar. Oh. And to give you an idea, your average house pump will be working at about 5 bar, so a tenth of the pressure in effect. So it's a really difficult one to kind of... work within the warranty parameters. Yeah. For us, it's simple, which is we ignore any warranty that comes from a manufacturer. In that situation, we would swap out there and then.
Do you find that has a cost to you at the end of the day?
Yeah, massive cost. But that's we're set
service.
Up. It's customer service, and secondly, could you imagine where we're from? Somebody coming to your house and saying, "Oh, you know that pump that's not working that you desperately need. I'm going to take it away for a week. I can't even guarantee a week, because we'll have to wait and see how long it takes before we can then schedule to come and refit." You'd laugh them out at the place.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how we're set up. So it has to be that in that situation, new pump goes in, and we will go and deal with all of the warranty the issues.
And you've got enough scale that you've got people here who that's what they're going to do. They're going to be on the phone to those suppliers and manufacturers saying, "Hey, this product didn't work."
Yeah, we have 2 teams that are constantly on the road just for spare parts. Another team of 2 here that is physically sourcing from the phones.
Those guys must have. That sounds like a modern day sort of investigative, detective service in a sense for cool stuff. They must find all sorts of neat things.
Well, it's trying to, we've been doing this now for 11 years. So what we've worked out is we need to be really quick with the way we work. One call, one visit, job done is what our tagline. That's what we stick to. So what actually happens is, as the failure occurs, at that time, the message comes to the office, and ideally pictures as well. From that point, immediately. So we're now at probably, we've known about the failure for, normally a minute, 2 minutes. By that time, it's already with the purchasing team. Another, hopefully, within the next 10 or 15 minutes, they've found the part, know where the part is. Also, we're tracking all the drivers so we know where they are. Yeah. So at that point, driver is given the details, sent through both the image and the picture. Pricing's already arranged. We've confirmed that it's at the location. So the pickup can be within 25 minutes to 30 minutes.
And you follow up with the customer to let them know, hey, you know what? This is where we're at. This is what's going on.
The hope is that, in effect, it's such a seamless process because it takes time to take the part out, that by the time the part's out, the new one has arrived if it wasn't already in the van anyway.
Nice.
So you end up in a seamless scenario. So the communication with the client happens to say, this is your pricing for the replacement. If we haven't already been able to tell them, which these days, 90% of the time, we already know where the issues lie. Yeah. So we can advise a customer up front. But again, if there's any deviation from that, then yes. We spend a lot of time on customer training, not just for the bookings team, but every single member of staff goes through that twice a year.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It's really, really good.
And it must make people, not just the folks who you're dealing with, but your own staff, they must be very happy about this because they're getting value added.
They really enjoy it. We've got a fantastic trainer, and he's one of our earliest customers, which really helps. But he's a brilliant trainer as well, and he makes all the sessions so interactive that the guys are really, really enjoying it. But we have to, these days, it has to be 2 days solid, where half the team day 1, half the team day 2, and the in between day is the best, or the in between kind of gap, which in the evenings the guys from the first group have said to the second guys, "You're going to like this one," and the buzz in the office when on day 2 especially is great. And also they have a whole load of challenges to do as well.
What do you mean? Give me an example.
Teamwork based,
team building
based stuff.
Okay.
So things like the arrangement of a whole bunch of planks to make a particular shape. We beat the world record on that one in the last training.
Really?
Never seen anything like it. But we smashed it. It was about 50% of the previous record. We just didn't have. We need the Guinness guy to come. We've got one in Dubai, haven't we?
Yeah, I think
Guinness,
we do. Yeah, absolutely.
Records. Well,
you got to know in advance so you can set it up.
Yeah. So next time we will get him in to see just how good our boys are. But no, that's it. I think any business in Dubai that prides itself on customer service has to invest in it. And that's exactly what we do.
That is so one of the big problems. I mean, you understand customer service because you guys deal with it, but you also are customers yourself of every, so many industries and so many service industries. I think a lot of our companies just miss that side of creating a great environment in-house, training in-house, so that the people who are providing that customer service to your customers are happy about their abilities and happy with what they're doing. And they're just not.
Yeah, I agree. And also, there's this laziness, I think, as well, which is...
Well, you cut right to the bone there. I was being more polite.
Okay, well,
but no, I think you're right. I think there is laziness.
Yeah, I agree. But what they do instead is they give a list of lots of customer service to be delivered with no connection, no understanding. So it's almost like a one-way monologue. And at that point, the customers are just bamboozled and kind of disappointed at that stage. Nobody's listened to them in the slightest about what their needs actually are. And instead, they've just had to sit through minutes of somebody reading a script, in effect, at them.
Throwing them a PowerPoint.
I'm not into that at all.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. What is going on in the shop these days? What this week? We seem to be talking every week now, which I love.
Yes.
Again, thank you guys for sitting down with me. This is in the middle of your work day.
Yeah,
so.
We're good. we're good. I really enjoy it. It's good to talk about all things maintenance. You know, it's kind of living what we do every day, which is fun. The interesting one this week has been there's been a few discussions over water heaters, water heater failures, and warranties. It's been a big one for us. Yeah. It's a really odd one here in the Middle East because there aren't that many places, I think, that have these individual immersion heaters for each room. Yeah. So I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the UK,
one big water heater in the basement.
Yeah, same
natural
for us.
gas, or often there's electric depending on what part of the country you're in.
Right.
Natural gas. It might be a Lennox.
Yes.
But it's one big tank that then feeds the house.
Exactly the same in the UK. Apart from normally, actually, it's on the kind of bedroom floor that the main immersion heater would be.
Okay. And ours would usually be in a basement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where because a lot of most homes, either if they're running electric, so then that might change things, electric heating, but a lot of homes have natural gas forced air heating,
yes.
which ties in nicely with an aircon unit.
Yes,
so if you've got
course.
your aircon unit sitting outside, usually one per house,
it
can fit right into that same ductwork,
of course.
And then feed through your vents.
Yes.
So that are often floor vents, which are kind of weird, but
it is a bit weird though, isn't it?
It's just because it's easier to do when you're building. So.
But also a lot of the older properties, I believe, in northern America especially, are wood.
Yeah.
So they're not, which is
wood,
just
but they've got
bizarrest
fantastic insulation. So they're using fiberglass pink and all sorts of things.
Okay.
So they've got 12 inches of insulation or 12-inch quality of insulation in the walls.
Oh, that's good going.
So great in the winter for keeping heat in.
Yes.
Great in the summer for keeping the cool in. Super insulation and roof insulation. That's a big thing. They'll fire stuff in and
see all that had to be retrofitted in the UK. And I remember
so all our houses are built like that.
Yeah, my dad's the ultimate DIYer, to say the least. So we did everything ourselves. And I remember him doing.
That's my house too. That's what we did. Everything ourselves. You're going to build an addition? Why would you hire a builder? Let's do it ourselves.
Yes.
Dad, you ever done this before? Nope. But we're going to learn.
Right. And these days you can YouTube anything.
Oh yeah.
Which is wonderful, isn't it? Yeah. So our issue with water heaters here is there's one individual one for each room, as people will know from the little switch that you turn on for those water heaters. They're built to a price point. The absolute honesty of it, and the main problem is that the biggest supplier of water heaters comes with a big sticker that says 5-year warranty on the side. And the issue we've had this week has been customers going, well, you're offering us a 1-year warranty. Why is there a 5-year warranty sticker on the side of this? And you guys are duping us. So the difficulty is, because this stock is coming in from overseas, the warranty that they have is based on an additional process happening every year, which is inside the water heater, there are 2 anodes. Which are basically there to stop the water being quite as acidic as it is over here due to the desalination, etc., etc. And the idea is that each year you would drain the water heater, replace the anodes, and then put it back. Now the problem is that's a condition of the warranty. The 5-year warranty.
No one reads that. No one reads that fine print.
Yeah. Well, nobody does read that fine print. The other issue is the anodes don't exist in the Middle East.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, so hold on a second. Someone's bringing in these water heaters
with the sticker on,
and they haven't read it themselves to say, hey, we better bring in a stock of anodes so that we can, or someone can now come to us and buy how much do the anodes cost? Are they cheap?
I don't know, because they're not here.
Yeah. and then there would be the fitting of them, but
so then
they haven't even done that job. I mean, that could be a great little anyway.
Well, it
business
could, but
for
then
somebody.
The other side of things of that is the amount of labour that's required to physically take it out, and also the access position in the water heater may well mean you've got to pull the whole water heater down to get to it.
And who wants
the way
to do
they're
that?
fitted here? Exactly, it's just not cost effective.
Yeah.
So we've got a standard thing, which is these water heaters. They say 5 years, and if you're lucky, you will get 5 years out of them anyway. More likely, 3 to 5 is the standard scenario. We offer a 12-month warranty because within that period, if it does fail, it's quite clear that there's been a manufacturer defect. And saying that, we haven't had one that has failed in that period in quite a while. Actually, we had a bad batch about 3-4 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, which was a major alarm bells situation. But
did you end up changing water heater supplier after that?
No, we went back to the manufacturer because we were comfortable with the supply that we had. But I went back to the manufacturer and said, you've got a dodgy batch here. And then we traced back each one, went back, recheck them free of charge for the customers as part of a standard warranty check. So basically, that's that kind of scenario. The other one that we had,
so replacing the anodes, but that's what gives you the 5-year warranty.
Yes.
But we don't replace the anodes here because it's not brought in.
Yeah. So hence you only have a 1-year warranty because that would be the anode period that was there. Exactly the same as we provide, but ours is no equivalent.
So why don't they just put another sticker on and say?
I know, it's one of those. The second one, which is interesting, is the same supplier has 2 different water heaters of each size. One which is made in Italy and one which is made in China. The Chinese one is obviously cheaper than the Italian one.
Same brand name though.
Yes, they've got slightly different model details. In the early days, so I'm talking now 6-7 years ago, we stuck with the Italian one because Italy production is better than Chinese production.
We hope.
Yeah. And then we kind of got talking within the industry, and we talked with other people, and we looked at our own ones and, failure rates of those. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
There was no difference. So then at that stage, we're like, okay, so we've got the option. Because it is Italian, do we go to our customer and say, hey, it's Italian, pay some more? Alternatively, do we go, well, we're going to fit the Chinese ones for the simple reason that they're of the same quality as the Italian ones anyway, but they're cheaper. Yeah. And it's obvious in that situation you go for the Chinese ones.
Well, especially if the manufacturer is putting their stamp on it and saying, this is made by XYZ Corporation and we make a version in China, we make a version in Italy. Hey, let's face it, if they're being made in the Shenyang district of China where they make iPhones and all these other electronic things, you don't look at your iPhone and say, I'm not buying that. But put together in China.
There is still a stigma, especially here with Chinese stuff, isn't there?
And part of it is the fact that we have the whole Chinese sales area.
Yes.
And there can be some dodgy stuff there. There can be some great things there, and you can find some treasures, but you can also find some pretty dodgy stuff.
Exactly. And I've talked about this probably in too much length in the past about that. There are some treasures to be found, and I've found things there in the past, but you need to be very careful with that. But so the point is, if you are then selling the Italian version, you need to let people know that supposedly, look, this is the Italian version. Well, we've actually done the testing on it. And
Same.
There is not a difference in terms of the quality. So as a result, we had that conversation this week as well. Are you supplying Chinese branded? And we're like, yes, we most certainly are. And they explain the reasoning and why that was and the cost saving that we can pass on to a customer to do that.
And at the end of the day, people are happy. At least, a little bit of savings for them.
Yes.
It's warranted anyway, so if it breaks down in a year, and away you go.
Yeah. Again, in that situation, I would still, if there was something that came back to us after 14 months, I'd have no issue with throwing that into a warranty as well. You've got to have a defined point, haven't you?
Yeah.
But we're looking for that long-term relationship with people. The last thing I want to do is to cause a problem with somebody over a water heater. It's just it's not worth it to us. So we try and be as practical as we can with the way that we approach our customers, and where there is reasonable cause.
It seems to be water heater time. It seems to be water heater time. Speaking of water heaters, a lot of people talking about water heater failure this time of the year, and I don't know what it is. A lot of times people turn off those water heaters in the hotter months. Yeah, they've been now working for 6-7 months. I don't know.
I think that's it. Yeah. A water heater is always full of water, which is something you don't really think about, but it's always full of water. So in effect, it's going to degrade whether or not you use it.
I wonder if it degrades faster when it's cold water versus when it's hot water.
Exactly. Well, from what I know, and again, James, I must say it's been a while since I've really looked at this, but from what I know in terms of rusting, hot water has more of an effect. And on top of that, you then add the salt element into it, which there still is an element of it, even after desalination, and that will accelerate as well. So we've now had 6 months of people using those water heaters. It's no surprise that as you go through the period, it starts to kind of accelerate, which is pretty normal.
Yeah. Okay. So get those, take it. And what are some of the telltale signs? We talked about this before. Yes. A little bit of rust. If you start seeing rust color.
If you see rust on the outside of your water heater, it is very imminent indeed. Yeah. Change at that time. There is nobody that can repair them.
Yeah. And you typically notice because it'll run down the side of it.
Yes, and it'll be very rust colored without a doubt. 2 places they normally fail, which is either on the hot water spigot point, which has a a red band around it, so you'll spot that. Or alternatively, on one end of the water heater, there is a weld seal, and that's the second place where you would see it as well.
And when they fail big time.
Yeah, I mean,
they never seem to just trickle a little bit. They seems to be Niagara Falls, Victoria Falls kind of things.
Well, no, we have quite a lot of tricklers.
Oh, yeah, get tricklers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, mind you, I think
my house, when they go.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, it's
painful.
Oh.
And then you're talking that the ceilings need to be repaired as well, and all of a sudden that the 1,000 dirham repair comes 2.5, and you're like, oh god, no.
Well, and I've had issues trying to find ceiling tiles, and I don't know why I've had issues trying to find ceiling tiles, but I had one time when it happened. Maybe they were just, there was a run on them, but in the place that I'd gone, they just didn't help.
Yours kind of the standard,
the standard square inlay kind of things.
Just call me. I stock a couple hundred in the warehouse.
I can just come and buy them from you.
The ones that are really it's fine. The ones that are really difficult are the ones that are made just purely out of plaster. Those are a nightmare because they degrade really quick. So trying to stop them from breaking before you put them in is really difficult.
Yeah.
Secondly, they're really heavy, which makes them difficult to get into position without chipping them. And thirdly, they're all different. They're not even standardized, which means now trying to find somebody that is prepared to stop them on the basis that they're going to lose a whole load of them anyway.
Yeah.
And also all the different varieties of that is really difficult. So they are our worst nightmare.
Yeah, well, there you go. But at least you've found a place to get them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we almost all of them we can source without too many problems, which is good.
Nice. Hey, we want to talk about paint a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, paint it's one of those things. It's like basic repairs you do around the home. Someone somewhere along the line, I think, has duped us in that we're just supposed to magically know about paint.
Yeah, it is a bit odd, that, isn't it?
And we figure everyone can paint.
Yes.
Paint a wall, and you just know how to do it. You've done it with your parents, or you've done it with. But more I look at it, it's not the standard. We don't get taught painting in school.
No.
We don't get taught about paint in school, in high school or primary school.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to know because it's everywhere, and our houses are typically painted inside and out in some place, way, shape, or form.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in Dubai, with the exterior properties being painted rather than exposed brick, there's a huge requirement for paint within properties just to maintain from where they are. Basically, paint boils down into two different areas, which are either water-based or oil-based, and that is the kind of biggest distinguisher between them. Water-based tends to be for cement and walls and that kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Oil-based tends to be for either wood or alternatively metal. That's your basic breakdown.
Okay.
There are products that try and merge those gaps because the cleanup and use of water-based paints is so much easier than oil. So therefore, there are plenty of manufacturers that have made that kind of leap to various different levels of success. The other thing that's nice with water is if you're particularly sensitive to brush marks, because water is kind of a thinner substrate, it tends to be that that water versions leave less. And in a hot climate as well, the fact that they evaporate slower is kind of useful as well.
Well, that's the other side, right? So not only do we have the paint, but we got to throw in the brushes in there. And you go to Ace and you look at the brushes available, and they go from 3 dirhams to 30 dirhams.
Yeah, it costs more than that in some places.
And you're standing there looking, and you've got synthetic, and you've got all sorts of different varieties, right up to whatever they are. I don't know what material these things are being made out of, and the multiple sizes.
Yeah.
And you read the box, and it's this is ideal, and it's going to work for this and
they
work for that.
They do sell them well, don't they?
Ooh, yeah. And it's like, well, which one do I use?
Okay, so natural versus synthetic bristle. Yeah. So the logic is that with a synthetic bristle, it is a thinner in effect. Each filament is thinner, and secondly, it's more bendy. Meaning
more
that,
bendy.
Yeah. So when you're trying to get a natural edge, you want the brush to be able to bend so that you can literally get it into the more accurately into the location where you need it. So that's the logic. Really cheap brushes tend to lose bristles.
Well, that's the other side, isn't it? You get you get this great bargain, and I bought my 5 dirham brush. I got a pack of them for 7.
Yes,
4 in there, and then you're painting or you're staining, and
Yeah.
There it is. There's that black bristle.
Yeah, which is a pain because then you have to stop, get the bristle out, and then refinish that area because you'll always leave a mark when you've done it. So that's frustrating. What I tend to say is don't spend massive amounts of money unless you plan on doing a lot of painting any one time. But conversely, I consider brushes to be disposable, which is unusual. Lots of people say they can be reused, and my father reused his for 20, 30 years. Yeah. But they get really really kind of stuck and solid. And it doesn't really matter what you do, in my opinion, whether you use paint thinners or whether you use even stripper that some people would use, lacquer thinner people have used as well. It's the paint that gets stuck right at the top of the brush, which literally means that it becomes less and less effective. So I stick with budget brushes.
Really?
Yeah. So generally speaking, the ones that we used are brand Harris, which is very well known here.
Yep.
But the budget range from Harris is a really great starting point, not too expensive.
And not so much bristle loss?
Yeah, not so much bristle loss. And again, if you're wondering about a brush in the shop, make sure nobody's looking, give it a bit of a tug and see whether or not anything comes out in your hand. If it does, run. That's generally the way that it would work. But the other thing that I think too many people do is when you think of painting, you automatically think of brushes.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing a large area, whether that be either wood or alternatively walls, it makes sense every time. You'll get a better finish if you use a roller. You know, even the radiator rollers, which are the little thin ones, they're great for edging.
Well, you got the same problem with rollers, though.
Which one? Disposable.
Right. Disposable, but which one do I take? I've got a thick pile. Yes. I've got a not so thick pile. I got something in the medium.
Yep.
And then it's different kinds of foam or whatever is on it. And it, suddenly again, I've got my 5 Durham budget one. I've got my medium of the road, my 15 Durham one, and I've got my 40 Durham one.
Right. Let's take that one on. Okay, so there are basically 4 different types of mainstay rollers, which is long pile, short pile, foam, and mohair. Okay. Now, long pile you would generally use for walls with water-based emulsion. Okay. So
long piles, you're using water-based emulsion paint. Okay.
Yeah. So the long pile, so the whole idea of that is to get plenty of paint that sticks to it or soaks into it in effect. And you want to be able to paint a large wall area with the least number of times that you need to
which is the other thing. People are refilling and then they're going over and over and over and over and it's starting to dry a little bit. And
that's where it starts to pull.
Yeah,
so exactly. The way that you're using that roller you need to be looking at that roller, and the idea is you don't let it pull, because as soon as it pulls the pile out long again, it means that A, you're running out of paint on the roller, and secondly, when you look at that finish, it goes really rough. So the idea is to keep a good amount of paint on the roller. If you watch a pro doing it, the way that they do it is they keep huge amounts of paint on that roller, and they cover the area really effectively. So they don't go over and over and over unless they've got a problem. Now, the problem with that is it's more likely to give you runs. So you need to be keeping a close eye on it with the long hair. But at the same time, it should mean that you can cover large areas more quickly.
Okay, so you keep that roller really soaked.
Yes, exactly. Smaller areas, then at that point, you would consider the short hair, short pile roller. I must admit, my dad used to use these, and I've never really understood his logic. Because a much better... So the idea of a short pile is to give you a finer finish than the long pile with emulsion.
And you're going to have less product on it, so you're going to get less chance of runs.
Yes, but instead I'll go to the mohair roller for that. That's actually mainly designed for oil-based, but it gives you a better finish than a short pile roller.
And so you're not using an oil-based, so you're using mohair with...
I would use mohair. You would also use with oil, without a doubt. So foam is next.
Okay, but you'll go to the mohair with a water-based paint.
Yes, I would. Really? I would as well. Again, but only for small areas. If I'm edging a wall, for instance, I would start to use something like a 3/4 inch brush initially to get right into the very corner.
Yeah.
If at that stage I feel as though actually that hasn't gone wide enough, rather than giving me another run which will show big brush strokes.
Yeah, which you see all the time when you.
And I might at that stage use a short pile in that situation if I haven't got a long pile with me, but I want to get that consistency as much as I can with how the wall would look.
Time sensitive in getting this done. Like, you've got about 5-10 minutes to go over these things again, or The less rolling you do, the less you're touching the product once it's been put down, the better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So make sure you've got the coverage. I haven't seen a wall yet that doesn't need 2 coats. There are single coat. There's another type of paint for you.
I've seen the
single coat paint.
They're selling it. That's single coat. I'm thinking, how do they know?
It's just thicker. You know, and then at that stage you've got the risk. So the thicker the paint, the more likely it is not to get, if you're trying to do it in 1 coat, not to get consistency. Yeah. So if you imagine, even when you're rolling out the paint, if you don't roll out that paint effectively in the tray, you end up with one side of your roller that's got loads of paint on it and not much on the other.
That happens all the time.
So
and then it looks like it on the wall, and then you get these big lines.
You've just painted a zebra accidentally, you know.
And it's like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get 1 coat. It's going to be efficient, cost-wise and time-wise, and then you get it all up, it dries, and someone looks and says, "Oh, you get another coat on there, eh?"
No, it's two coats is consistent. It's the standard.
Don't let someone sell you that.
Ignore it. Absolutely ignore it. There's another one, which is all these specialist products that are out there. I am not a fan. At the end of the day, it boils down to, even with the mainline products, there's a reason why they're the mainstream products, and that is because they work. Yeah. When you start working with any of the specialist bits and pieces, unless you specifically need something specialist for what you're doing, it tends to be that they haven't tested them as much because there's not so much financial reward, and secondly, the products fail as a result of people not using them.
Exactly.
Well, it's just not the way to go. So we go really mainstream with the painting materials that we use. So let's get to oil-based. And so oil-based, traditionally you would use a brush. Which is fine if you're, and again, at that stage, because it's oil-based and slightly thicker, there then is an argument, if you've got quite a lot of fiddly work to do, to buy a more expensive natural brush. And again, the longer piles work quite well, so longer length of bristles on a brush.
More flexible. And,
exactly.
Nice.
However, the mohair roller, which came in now probably about 10 years ago, so a mohair roller, you can get them in full width. And I've done, actually in the very early days, I used to do doors with that when we had a client that wouldn't pay to spray the doors, which is the ultimate finish. Then we mohair rolled them. And I got quite good at that because it was actually for a law firm in DIFC, believe it or not.
Okay.
And it's quick. It's really quick. I could do a door in under 10 minutes.
Wow.
And the result, it's not ideal. You could see that it was that there's a stipple in there, but it's much better than anything else apart from spraying that door. But if you spray the door, the whole doors have to come off. You then got the frames that need to be done as well. Right. You end up in a really difficult kind of situation with that. And spraying in situ, which is the main method that's done here, you end up with so much overspray that the cleanup is dramatic.
Yeah, forget it. And if you're spraying oil, forget it.
Yeah, so mohair is a nice kind of in-between for when you don't want to go down the spray.
Mohair?
No,
nothing.
Not at all.
Okay, good. But it has that, because you get a mohair sweater, and it's like...
Yeah. I'm not sure whether they're actually mohair, but that's how they're known in the trade anyway. But the general one, again, is the radiator roller size, which is about 4 inches, I think they are.
Yeah, they're tiny, those things.
Yeah, they are, but they're really good for getting into skirting or, again, window, door frames rather, that kind of stuff. They're absolutely ideal. In fact, the room that we're in right now was done that way. The black skirting that we've got right here was done that way. And again, it is as good as you can get without then spraying it. Again, there's an argument to be had with that for oil-based paints, whether or not you add a little bit of additional paint thinners in there. Depends on temperature, depends on viscosity of the paint itself.
And oil can give you that nice gloss too.
Yeah. So
I guess you can get the same with a water-based paint, but...
Yes, you can. Well, actually, they call it silk in that situation. Yeah. So let's go through that. So basically, it's levels of glossiness. Yeah. Okay. So with a water-based paint, it's the amount of latex that they include within it. Right. So you have vinyl matte, matte meaning no shine or very little shine. There's also, sometimes it's called flat, but generally speaking, it's vinyl matte. You then have vinyl silk, which is considered to be like a half shine level.
Okay.
Now, the reason you go down that route on a water-based wall paint is so that you have it is more resistant to damage, so scuff marks and that kind of thing. The negative side of it is if you don't have a wall that is perfect, so it's had a few patches or been repainted before, it shows up your the painting issues.
More than oil?
No, not more than oil. But again,
okay.
people do it here, but they should never be painting walls with oil. It's just silly.
Okay.
They normally do that when there is some kind of water leakage behind it, and they're trying to bodge it.
Okay.
There's no scenario whereby I'd be comfortable with oil paint going on a wall.
All right. So if someone wants to put oil paint on the wall, say, okay, what are you trying to hide?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So then when you come to oil-based paint, yes, you have a matte that's there. You then go to satin, which is that half and half, which is kind of the oil-based equivalent of vinyl silk. And then you have gloss, the traditional gloss that everybody knows about.
So where am I using, if on my walls and that I'm using a water-based paint, where am I using oils?
So oils would be wood or metal.
Okay,
so radiators, if you were somewhere else.
Yeah.
Skirting boards without a doubt. Yeah, baseboards, as you guys would call them. Door frames, doors.
Okay, so that's all oil.
That's all oil. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I've got cupboards or something that you want to cover over with paint.
Again, oil.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it's more hard wearing on the whole. And again, the more, the shinier it is, the more resistant it is to damage.
General setup when we're doing painting and cleaning up, taping things, make sure.
Yeah.
And so many people don't do that. They don't do prep.
Yeah, see, it's an interesting one. If you have the steadiest hand going, and my sister does, bless her, whenever we've done painting projects, that's been her job.
Got a ticket for you.
So,
you want to come and visit? Yeah, we need you.
Yeah. So I can't get a decent edge. So therefore we tape. Masking tape's fine, but you need to buy good quality masking tape.
I know, and there's so many varieties of that stuff.
Yeah. See, it's interesting. If you've just got a project for yourselves and you're just doing a room or so, it makes sense to invest in painter's tape.
Right.
Painter's tape, normally blue.
Yep.
And what it means is you get kind of the ideal edge that's there. Okay, so it should mean that there is less leakage. Secondly, when it comes off the wall, it's much less likely to be pulling paint off the wall with it.
Spend a little bit more for painter's tape?
Yes.
But worth it. Don't skimp out.
It is quite a lot more. It's probably double decent quality masking tape at least. But then decent quality masking tape should do the job. It's what contractors like ourselves would use on the whole because it's more cost effective. But again, you have to be much more careful about leakage underneath the tape while you're painting.
And it's always, there's some of these gizmos and things you can buy for painting. You see them on I've seen on TV channels, the plastic things you can put down and this and things for your rollers and that. And it's like, give me a break.
They don't work. It's if you imagine, so the standard one that you just
mentioned. And they got a professional painter showing, the person who's doing the painting with these gizmos.
He works at.
Because it's a professional painter. So they don't need this thing anyway. So the fact that they know what they're doing and then they're doing it with this thing, you're never going to be like that person unless you're painting all day long.
Yeah, so that one is basically like a plastic straight edge.
Yeah.
So put it up against the corner.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly what we're talking about. And then basically paint up to it, and they think you can go around at the speed of light and this perfect edge. No, you can't. As soon as you get paint onto the painter's edge, it will then leak underneath. And unless you are a genius at it, in which case you've been doing it for 30 years, it's an extremely difficult method to use.
How about those flat pad things that you can do with corners?
Yeah.
You've seen those as well?
Yeah, I've seen those. For corners when you don't have to cut in a different colour, they're okay. They're expensive for what they are. Yeah. They don't hold much paint, so you're constantly redoing them, but they would work fine. Well, I don't understand why you wouldn't use a 5-dirham brush instead for exactly the same job.
Yeah.
It's one of those, isn't it?
Someone's got to make some money off these things, though.
Yeah, I know. But they kind of, it does irritate me when people sell these things as being, this wonderful answer to everything. Well, no, it's not.
When you go to the hardware store, and I mean, at this point, I'm talking Ace.
Yeah.
But there's lots of paint stores. Paint is a big business.
Oh, it's a huge business. Huge business.
It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's huge competition just to be even listed in Ace Hardware. It's phenomenal, and over the years there's been all sorts of brands that they've had, including their own brand. I've met with the guys from the US that came over with Ace Hardware to review their paints, and then talk through the competitors within the market. And really interesting guys. Wow, we had a great morning on that. They introduced me to a lot more knowledge over pigments, especially, which is critical.
That's huge now.
Yeah.
There's computer pigment things, and just the mixing of that it's a little bit of an art form.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, and it's also not just the fact that the equipment is decent, but it's calibrated correctly.
Yes.
And
because if it's not, it's a disaster.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting one as well. So, if you are doing a painting job, let's imagine your average bedroom in Dubai. Okay. Yeah. If you are lucky, that is 2 gallons. Okay. If you are unlucky, if it's just even a little bit bigger, it's 3 gallons. Okay. Your options, therefore, are to buy 3 individual 1 gallon colours, or alternatively to buy 1 5-gallon drum. Yeah. Okay. Which is more expensive than 2 individual gallons, but cheaper than 3 individual gallons. Yeah. However, because it's mixed once, you get that consistency.
There you go.
Also, touch up, which we need to get back to. Make sure that I come back to that. It gives you extra paint beyond what you need.
How long does this paint last?
That's part of the issue. But also, here, because we have so much UV, if a paint goes on a wall, imagine that you put paint on the wall, and especially if it was either in the darker colours or red and green are notorious for this as well. Yeah. If you went back to it 6 months later with a wall that has had been exposed to the sunlight here with exactly the same paint and painted it on, you will find it won't match.
Wow.
That's not degradation of the paint in the tin, it's degradation of the paint on the wall that's faded.
No, that's big time.
Well, the issue occurs when you are at the stage where you want to hand back the property to a landlord, and he says you need to, well, if he's a decent landlord and rather than complete repaint agrees that you just fill the holes, you then fill the holes and try and paint over it with the same paint that you had before, and it comes out differently.
Yeah,
every disaster. Yeah. So we've got a clever method for that, which is basically put a thick piece of masking tape over the hole that you have drilled. To reiterate, never ever use nails in walls in Dubai. You'll end up with a huge blast hole. So put it over the drill hole. Use a biro to stick a hole through your tape where the hole behind it is. And then you mix the filler with the paint that you had before and push it through that hole until it's packed. Leave it there, let it dry. You'll probably have to do it twice because the filler will shrink. Yeah. On the second time when you do it, also just use a tiny little bit of water on a damp cloth just to clean it off. And at that point, rip off the tape and job done. That is as good as you will get. Still not perfect. Yeah. Don't assume it will be, but it's not bad.
Oh, okay. Easy. Nice. What do we want to come back to? Do we have anything else left in our paint area? We've covered a lot of information. It's almost like I need to go back and listen to this now and take some notes.
I guess stains are another one. I am a big fan of stains.
You like stains?
I've just done a big project which involved a huge amount of staining.
And there's so much variety in this. I mean, when you're looking at the paint, you've got variety. You've got the brushes, you've got the rollers. Yeah. And then you get into the stain area. Yeah. And there's so many varieties there.
It's also a black art because if you imagine the whole concept of a stain is that it has to soak into wood. Yeah. Well, woods, when it's virgin, when nothing's been done to it yet, it still soaks in at different rates, so you don't get that consistency, which is one of the things people love about stains. But then the other side of that is, if it has previously been treated in any way and you try and stain it, at that point...
You're done for.
It depends. You can kind of rock with it, and you can create quite a cool distressed look if you want to. Yeah. But it will add to the variation within the stain. Let's put it that way. So you really need to know what you're doing at that point.
And then you got your lacquers.
Yes. And then you would lacquer, varnish it.
Yeah. Varnish, lacquer, stain. They're all slightly different things.
Yes, they are. And then in interior and exterior, only get the right paint for what you're doing. They're clearly marked. Interior, exterior.
Don't cheat it. Don't let someone tell you how you can use it.
It will peel within a short period if you use interior in an exterior environment. Exterior with an interior, less of an issue, but it just will be look a little bit more. Yeah. Well, overkill, and also it tends to be not as fine, the paint. So therefore, you'll show all your brush marks up, etc.
Yeah, no one wants that at all. Yeah, but this has been like the masterclass in painting.
It has been quite in depth, hasn't it?
Yeah,
to say the least. But I've been painting. I think my dad started me off painting when I was 6. And that was kind of a general thing, one of the things that we would always do together. And I guess that's where the whole DIY thing came from, really.
It started with paint.
Yeah, well, it starts with family, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
And I think it's the same for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Absolutely. You know, building fences and kind of stuff. And you learn along the way. You know, it's like, you know, you bring a board back. I remember building a fence with my dad and bringing a board back, and he goes, you measured that twice? Yeah. I'm going, he goes, I could tell you didn't measure it twice. It's not the same size. But Dad, it's only as an eighth of an inch off. And I said, yeah, it's an eighth of an inch off. Now you got to go back and do another one.
Yeah.
And so now we wasted a board. Now we got to get more. It's like,
but it's all part of that. You know, I've already started that with my 4-year-old. Interesting. She is so much more interested in it than my 7-year-old son.
Really?
Yeah. Ruby's absolutely loving it. But
awesome.
So projects to me, it's just lovely to share it.
Well, you know, next time we get together, why don't we talk about doing some of these projects and lessons learned in, you know, about home maintenance and that from around projects, and then of course kick back in on what's going on, you know, in the shop. We want to talk about cleaning water tanks again.
Yes,
and I know we've spoken about that before, but I want to go into the details about that and the fact that so few people do get that done professionally.
Yes,
and you'll get a lot of jobbers who will come and do work on water tanks and say, well, we've cleaned it, but they haven't cleaned it.
Or they've left it in a very dangerous position if they've used heavy chemicals as well, and that's a safety issue here in Dubai.
And of course, if people want to get in touch with us, Podaholiks with a K at gmail.com. Fire the questions through. But we'll go through your call list as well and see what's going on. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Sounds great. Yes.
Dan will be back with us, we hope, next time. But Colin,
so.
You made it. And that's, you know, hey, we got half of the We Will Fix It team, WeWillFixIt.com. Join us here on the We Will Fix It Show. So, thank you very much.
Fun as always.
You've been listening to the We Will Fix It Show with Colin from WeWillFixIt.com. Want to get in touch with us? Drop us a line. Podaholiks with a K at gmail.com or reach out on the socials. Podaholiks with a K. It's been a blast. We'll talk to you again real soon. So long for now.